tracker to chew up and swallow, and then tells her, she's going.
I love that she hands it to her, and then she's like, "It needs to be chewed."
Yes, it must be chewed.
Because it's kind of like Agnes wasn't sure she wanted to do it, and then it's like no, it's got to be chewed up so we know that you've done it.
Right.
Do you think that it was flavored? Like a mint or strawberry flavor or something, just to help with the swallowing of it?
I'm going to say that because the tracker was blue, it tasted like blue raspberry.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
I was going with menthol, but I can get behind blue raspberry.
Refreshing menthol. Clears the lungs.
Yep, nice breath afterwards.
Delicious. I feel refreshed and I feel tracked. This is great.
So how much, quick question, how much of what she showed her in the mind meld do you think was quote-unquote real, and how much was just propaganda to further their cause?
That's a great question. I mean, for me personally, I feel like I don't know. That could easily be stuff that Commodore O wants Agnes to believe will happen.
Well, I mean, the Romulans can do the mind meld and have, certain powers, limited telepathy and all that, but they're not really like fortune tellers, and they can't travel through time. So where would she have been getting that information? And I really thought it was strange that Jurati just kind of like accepted it. Just as soon as she got it shown to it, she was like, "What do you want me to do?" It's without questioning. Okay, where are you getting that information? If that's the future, how do you know what the future is? You know what I mean? Like, it was just like, okay. So.
Well, here's a thought. Oftentimes with mind melds, and we've seen it in Star Trek many times when a Vulcan mind melds with somebody, it's more than just sharing information. There can often be a command implanted in that person's mind. It's very Inception-like, right? Like, I think back to the end of like Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, right? When Spock mind melds very briefly with Dr. McCoy, and he tells him, remember, right? And that's where he basically puts his Katra inside Dr. McCoy's brain so that he can then, I guess, retrieve it later when they go and dig up his body. But it's plausible that in those images was a command, maybe subliminally planted, of this, like, you must believe this. You know what I mean? Like that could have happened, because why else would she be so willing to comply so quickly?
So if that's the theory, then we have to accept that this is 100% propaganda.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's almost like that. Is it from like A Clockwork Orange, where like the guy's got his eyes like forcibly opened and they're showing him images. It's almost like that. Like, she's forcibly shown her propaganda. It's now implanted in her brain. You can't unsee it. And so with that, could there be a command of, you must believe this is true. You have to believe this will happen. Yeah. And now she's convinced, after meeting this person for like 5 minutes, that, yes, I'm going to kill the man I love and blow up an android. Because that seems like a reasonable thing to do right now. Like, why else would she do it?
Listen, somehow, whenever Commodore O takes off those sunglasses, it hypnotized her to really, like, not even realize that she got those things implanted in her brain.
It's like when Cyclops, right, takes off his glasses. There's no control over the lasers and whatever. I mean, technically, she shouldn't even need the sunglasses, because Vulcans have an inner eyelid. I know I'm getting really nerdy here. I'm sorry, everybody.
Yeah, but
I forgot that.
Have an inner eyelid. I just think it was more of a fashion statement.
Oh, it was. I know. I'm being that guy who's like, actually, I'm being that guy.
Well, she pulled over to some truck stop and she was getting gas, and there was a spinner rack with those on there. And, it's kind of hard to pass up at 2 for $10.
Oh, listen, 2 for $10, what a deal.
Exactly.
I mean, she picked up a pack of smokes, a map, and some sunglasses. Why not? She picked up some Virginia Slims because she's come a long way, baby, and off she goes.
The thing that made me laugh the most was the map. Does she need the map to transport herself there?
Well, if there's a gas station, then there's a map. I mean, I'm just going with what Steve set up. Well, I mean, I've been to Japan, and that train system is very confusing. So I can understand why she grabbed a map.
That's hilarious.
Also, I have to apologize. I know this is a family show, but I have been having a couple of beverages. So if I start to go a little off track, my apologies in advance.
That's quite all right. You're allowed to have adult beverages. No worries. Okay, so the other thing, the last thing Commodore O tells her is that she will have to make a terrible sacrifice. And assuming nothing else happens, I mean, killing Bruce Maddox, the man that she clearly loved, that's a pretty huge sacrifice right there. And it is terrible. And we know that she feels terrible, right? Especially in this episode where she's like eating, a whole cake. She's pretty broken up.
I wanted some of that cake. Did you see how much frosting was in between?
There was so much frosting on that cake. And if it was red velvet, that was cream cheese frosting.
Right? It's not even like cake with cream cheese frosting. It was cream cheese frosting with cake.
It was so.
We need to move past this subject quickly because.
Okay. No more cake talk. I do love red velvet.
Oh man,
delicious. Okay, so now we're back on La Sirena. They're at the Borg cube, but they're stuck in a tractor beam. And on the cube, Narissa, she's got all these ex-Borgs lined up, and she is just shooting. She's like shooting them one by one because she's trying to make Hugh talk and tell her where Picard and Soji went. And he's refusing to talk, and he's kind of prepared to die at this moment if he has to. But she doesn't kill Hugh. She kills all the other ex-Borgs in that room. They all just are immediately shot by her squad, like her goon squad. And she tells Hugh, they died because of you. It's your fault. You're not cooperating. You've ruined years of work. All these operatives across the galaxy, and now you just come in here and do your thing, and you've just ruined everything. And she says that she would kill him, but because he's part of the Federation and they have a treaty, she's not going to kill him. That apparently will not last the whole episode, that attitude. We see Narek getting into his ship. He leaves the Borg cube, and they release La Sirena. Raffi's like, this is a trap, and Rios is like, well, even if it is, they have to catch me first. So they're getting ready to leave, but Elnor tells them he's going to stay on the Borg cube, and he's going to help Hugh. He's like, I'm needed here, and I'm not going to let this happen again. Rios thinks he's crazy for staying. Agnes thinks he's brave for staying, but they do leave him there, and they take off, and Narek follows them. And it reminded me of the scene in Empire where the Millennium Falcon takes off and then Boba Fett's ship is right behind it, just following him across the galaxy.
I can't believe you're the one who brought up Star Wars.
I know, I brought up Star Wars. and not in a bad way.
No.
And not to say it's not as good as or whatever, but no, I brought up a good thing about Star Wars.
Yeah.
So we now get to the planet Nepenthe, which is the title of this show, of this episode, of course. Picard and Soji arrived. Yes.
I'm sorry. Why do you think that it's called that?
Why
Nepenthe? Why did they choose that? I mean, just out of curiosity.
That's the planet they were on, right?
I understand, but they made that name up, and I can't. I don't understand why they used. So I looked up what Nepenthe means. I don't know if either one of you guys did that, but it's a fictional medicine for sorrow used in Greek mythology, like the Odyssey. It was used in the Odyssey as a drug to make you forget your sorrows.
Oh.
Oh, interesting.
And I don't know because there's a lot of sorrow in this episode.
Yeah.
Very.
I mean, obviously Hugh goes through a lot of sorrow, and of course Soji goes through a lot of sorrow, and then we found out that Riker's family has a tragedy, and there's sorrow there.
Yeah.
So I just thought it was strange that they used that title of that planet and the episode as a drug of forgetfulness for the sorrow.
That's really interesting. I didn't know that. Thanks for bringing that up. Yeah.
You're welcome.
But it does make sense of how later on Riker and Picard have a conversation about how the soil on Nepenthe is very regenerative. Like everything grows there really well, and maybe the idea being that they went there because their older son was sick. And they thought perhaps there could be some kind of a cure or a way to treat his illness there.
For a second, I was thinking, did they bury him and hope he was going to come back to life? Are we going to have a zombie in this?
Oh my God, it's a pet cemetery planet.
I mean, that's sort of what it sounded like. And then I laughed at myself for that split second thought because no, that's not going to happen in this. But
oh my God, can you imagine though? You can't bury anything, it'll come back. Oh man. So on Nepenthe, Picard and Soji arrive, and they're immediately confronted by somebody who's kind of in shadows, who's using a bow and arrow. Picard tells them they should aim for his head because his heart is solid duratanium. Of course, that's a reference to his past from Next Generation. We all know about the heart replacement.
He needs to go for the head, like they told Thor.
Go for the head. Did you learn nothing from Mark? Go for the head. He calls her Kestra and asks if her mom and dad are about, which is very cute. So of course this is Kestra, the daughter of Deanna and Will Riker. So this is one of the Easter eggs that I mentioned in the episode. Kestra is named for Deanna's older sister, Kestra Troy, who died very young when Deanna was still a baby. If you're unfamiliar with that storyline, you can watch it in the Next Generation, Season 7, Episode 7, Dark Page, where there is a whole chapter of Troy's life that she didn't even know existed because it all happened when she was a baby.
Oh, so, that's a nice catch, Rebecca.
Well, thank you. I will say I did look it up because when she called her Kestra, I said, that name seems really familiar, and I thought about it for a day or two, and I was like, I think that's her older sister's name, and I did look it up to be sure, but yes, that is her.
Yep.
So as they walk to the house, Kestra and Soji are talking, and she tells Soji that she is a Vivine wild girl of the woods. I loved this whole, I don't know how you guys felt. I definitely want to hear your thoughts. I loved this whole fantasy world that her older brother Thad built of his fictional home planet, Ardani, and all these languages he invented, and that she was a Vivine, this wild girl, and this other language of the what were they, like the ice witches of another thing. I thought it was such a sweet little whimsical part of the episode of this fantasy world that they created for themselves.
I mean, I agree. I really think that it was the best part about it was how supportive the parents were to it. The fact that Deanna learned the language, and I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe Riker even spoke the language for a second. He said one of the words when he referred to Deanna. I think I could be wrong, but that's awesome. Like that their son did. I mean, a lot of parents, just kind of oh, that's sweet, and just kind of ignore it or just go past it as a phase. But their parents actually learned the language, and that was pretty cool to show the support from them.
Are you talking about when he called her Imzadi? Because that's a Beta Z thing.
Darn. Okay. Well, at least Troy said he can speak the language.
Yes.
Riker might know a word.
Yeah. Yeah. I really liked it. I thought it was cute. It was sort of just sort of reminded me of Peter Pan, Lost Boys or whatever, running around, and with the bows and arrows and playing and stuff. And I like that he made up so many languages and stuff because Soji's a linguist, so that was really cool. I mean, obviously she's an android, so she would have been able to learn them anyway. But yeah, or a synth, excuse me, that's a new term. Star Trek's getting all